What you watch depends on what kind of mood you're in. Sometimes you're craving comedies like Friends or South Park, and sometimes you're more into dramas like HBO's Succession and House of the Dragon. There's also cooking shows like Chopped and Beat Bobby Flay, and even movies like The Lord of the Rings and Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Well, Max is the streaming destination that has the best of entertainment for whatever mood you're in anytime. And plans start at as little as $9.99 a month. Max, the one to watch. Subscription required. Visit max.com.
Imagine you're looking at a balancing scale with everything you do for other people on one side and everything you do for yourself on the other side. If it isn't balanced, maybe it's time to spend a little more time on you. And therapy is a great place to start. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online who can help you find that balance and stick to it. Visit betterhelp.com/positive to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/positive.
Jacob Albrocht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 of Sports Daily on KFH. Tommy Castor along with Paul Savage. In for Jacob Albrocht this week. Jad Chambers producing the show. And of course, as always, the IHOP hotline is open at 869-1240. You can join the show there. You can also watch our video stream on the KFH Facebook page, the KFH YouTube page, and the Sports Daily Twitter page. Join the show there. Leave your comments on the screen. We'll get to them as hour number 2 rolls on. Paul, I've been thinking during the break a little bit more about this breaking news that came out last hour that the PGA Tour and LIV Golf are officially merging. The more that I think about this, the more angry I get about this. Because we were conditioned, if you're a golf fan, if you're a PGA Tour fan, which I am, I consider myself a PGA Tour fan, I was conditioned for the last 2+ years to despise LIV Golf, to despise everything LIV Golf stands for, that it's blood money from the Saudis, that it's, it's unethical, that the tour, that, the breakaway tour will, damage and destroy the integrity of the golf world, all of this stuff. I was conditioned to believe that from the mouth of the PGA Tour themselves. Like, they created this entire narrative about how bad the LIV Golf Tour was with the people that were funding it and all of that. And I believed it, and I didn't watch a minute of LIV Golf. I didn't like the golfers that were leaving. I grew up a Phil Mickelson fan. I stopped liking Phil Mickelson, all of that. I was conditioned to believe all of that. And here we are 2 years later, and out of the blue, there's a merger. Like, are we just supposed to forget about everything that the PGA Tour conditioned the fans to believe for the last 2 years?
Yeah, I pulled for lefty too. I mean, I really did. I was, but here's the thing that I try to look at with sports. And that is that it's not political. I don't want my sports to be political. I don't want anybody to tell me, and if you have an opportunity to go make some more money and it's with another golf tournament, I'm okay with it. I mean, if it's legal to do, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Go do what you want to do. Go do what you got to do to support your family. So I try to keep all politics out. I didn't really get involved when Kaepernick was kneeling and when all the kneeling in sports was going on. I left that to the political side. I never talked about that in the world of sports. Sports is what you and I do, what we love. It's the great thing that brings people together. It's a uniter. So that's the way I always looked at it. But you're right. It's obvious these two groups did not care for each other, and that's putting it mildly. So I was blown away, too, about the merger. But I get it. I understand it. I mean,
well, at the end of the day, money wins out, right?
Isn't that the truth?
I guess money cures all, right?
Right.
I mean, these two organizations had been embroiled in lawsuits and countersuits and, public feuding, and the commissioner of the PGA, Jay Monahan, and the leader of LIV Golf, Greg Norman, the legendary Greg Norman, just, going at each other publicly at press conferences and in interviews. Then you had players being pitted against each other. Rory McIlroy was a champion for the PGA Tour. And then you had all of these other golfers like Phil Mickelson and Koepka and others that were on the LIV Golf side because they were making a lot more money on that side, and they didn't care about where the money was coming from. But all we heard about from the PGA Tour was how evil and bad LIV Golf was because the money was coming from bad places and a government with the Saudi Arabia government that, had blood on their hands and all of this stuff. And I don't get into politics really either, but I'm just, when it bleeds into sports and I'm conditioned to believe that, there's a good side and an evil side, I took the side of the good. I wanted to watch the PGA Tour because I felt like that was worthy and true and pure and clean. And now all of a sudden, I think at the end of the day, with this merger, the PGA Tour comes off looking really, really bad.
Well,
they look really bad in this merger. LIV Golf looks great. They accomplished their goal. The players look really good. They're making a lot more money now than they were before. I think the PGA Tour looks really bad in all of this.
Well, here, it's kind of interesting the way you look at that. Everybody's pure. Well, nobody's pure. Everybody has something that they're trying to coerce or hide or whatever the case. So I get that. But when you look at the LIV Golf tournament, you probably didn't support them because they weren't getting all the great golfers that you would want to see, or at least not the quantity.
They had a lot of number of them. They did,
but they didn't have the guys that viewers want to see. I mean, they didn't have the end guys. They didn't have the guys that you want to follow, that you have this feeling for. They did not have them. They had Phil, they had a few of the others, but they didn't have enough of the guys that you want to follow on a week-to-week basis, tournament-to-tournament basis. They just didn't have that. And the fact that LIV was able to coerce, and I'm going to use the word coerce if you don't mind, a merger between the two leagues is unbelievable to me. And you know what it tells me? Money. There is an infinite amount of money that can be used by LIV to get this thing going. And I think the PGA probably looked at it and said, do we want to fight this battle, or do we just go ahead and merge? Now, if in your mind LIV is all so bad, it's blood money and this, why the heck is the PGA merging with a blood-sucking organization?
Dollar signs.
Dollar signs. Well,
that's all it is. They saw the PGA Tour
Yeah.
and Jay Monahan over the last 2 years. First off, they saw that LIV Golf was not going away. I think that there was this thought process that, it's just going to be this renegade tour that will be around for a short period of time, and then it'll fail, it'll flop, it'll flame out. But LIV Golf had a significant amount of money behind it, and it didn't matter if they were losing money hand over fist. That didn't matter because they had the money to back it up, and so they continued on. It didn't matter that they were on the CW and nobody cares about the CW. That didn't matter. It didn't matter that, that they were barely getting any viewers and people to care. That didn't matter. What mattered was they were still around, and they weren't going anywhere. And the PGA Tour looked at their business model and looked at their bottom line and decided that regardless of all of this bluster and all of this, all the fighting and the just everything that has happened over the last 2 years with the PGA Tour fighting against LIV Golf, I guess they decided if you can't beat them, join them, right? I guess we'll go ahead and accept the blood money too. And look, I don't have an issue with that necessarily. Like I said, I don't get involved in politics, but the PGA Tour made such a major stand against the ethical, the unethical operation of LIV Golf, and now they're changing course. They're doing a complete 180, and they're accepting the money in a merger. Doesn't sit well with me.
Well, I know you were born, but I know it wasn't last night, and I know you're not so naive to think that money doesn't make a difference in these things, and it's amazing how that always works out. And the PGA was talking about it. This isn't about the money for a long, long time. We don't want them here. It's
about the money.
Not about the money. And lesson of life. Pay attention, everybody. If you haven't figured this out, when anybody says it's not about the money, it's about the money. That's lesson of life. One of the first lessons you ought to learn. But anyway, with that being said, I'm not surprised that the merger eventually happened. But I am surprised that it happened now because it looked like to me the PGA was winning. Now, this is just an observation. I really don't know. I don't have the dollars to look at. I don't know how, viewership is not as great in LIV tournaments. I get that. I'm pretty sure that that's the case. It looked like to me the PGA was winning. Why then, for goodness sakes, do they decide to merge and give LIV a new life? I'm kind of asking that. The articles that I'm looking at, I'm not quite sure I'm seeing. Tommy, do you have some insight as to why the merger was made? I mean, other than
I don't know.
Money. Sure,
it's money, right? Like it's money. It's the business model. It's the bottom line. I don't know, and I've not seen an article that has Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA, really talking about it. I'm sure we'll find out more as time goes on. But I think at the end of the day, LIV Golf looks really good in this. They accomplished their goal. The players look really good in this. They accomplished their goal, and that's great. The PGA Tour looks really bad. They fought tooth and nail to get rid of LIV Golf and to extinguish LIV Golf from the landscape of men's professional golf. Didn't happen, and now they're merging. They made such a big stand about the whitewashing of all of the bad things that the Saudi Arabia government has done over the years. They made such a big stand about all of it, and such a big stink about it for 2 years. Yeah. Went to court, lawsuits, all this stuff, and now all of a sudden they're merging. So I think they look really bad.
I took it off. I took the story off my computer. You still got it up? What's the name of the new league conference? What are they going to call? What are they going to call this?
I don't think they've announced that. So it's the PGA Tour, it's LIV Golf, and then the DP World Tour, which used to be the European Tour.
Okay,
all three of them have merged. I'm more interested in finding out what it's going to mean for these players that were part of LIV Golf, if they can play in majors and PGA Tour events, if they can play in the Ryder Cup, like all of that. I'm sure time will tell, and we'll figure all that out. JB on our YouTube page mentions about pro wrestling and about the days 20, 25 years ago when the WWF bought WCW and how they merged and how that hurt the industry for years. I do think there's a little bit of a similarity there, JB, and thanks for the comment. A little bit different too, considering that LIV Golf was a breakaway tour, and before then there was really no competition. So a little bit apples and oranges there, but I do appreciate the comment and appreciate the comparison there.
I saw him.
And Paul, you mentioned
I saw that comment too, and I was just thinking to myself, wow, just recently WWE has also been accused of accepting the Saudi blood money because they have those live events now in Saudi Arabia. So
but they don't
sell together.
But they don't sell beer there.
No, they probably don't.
I mean, there definitely is, and I don't know how much you guys have followed, all of this, but I've watched a couple of documentaries and read some articles about how the Saudi government, we don't have to get into it on this show, but how the Saudi government has really, really intentionally used the world of sports to try to improve their standing in the world. And so LIV Golf was one of those examples.
You can't blame them for trying. They're trying to do something. I don't know that it's working. I don't know that it worked with this, but they're going to try. I mean, that's important to them, I guess. So they're doing what they need to do. But man, they won. They won this deal.
They absolutely
this
did.
They 100%
won. Yep, it's a loss for the PGA. It's a win for LIV Golf. I think it will all work out and be okay, but I think the optics of it right now for the PGA are not good. And of course, we'll continue to follow it as developments continue on over the next couple of days. Another piece of breaking news, Paul, that I want to get to here before we take our first break of the hour. Benner, head coach at Wichita State, has agreed to a contract extension that runs through 2028. So, of course, we started the first hour by talking about the new baseball coach at Wichita State, Brian Green, and now some softball news. Christy Bredbenner will be at the helm of Shocker softball for years to come, agreeing to that contract extension through 2028. And, Paul, I would say incredibly deserved for Christy.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that with all the conversation we've had for Kevin Saul, congratulations, Kevin Saul. Boy, this is a move that I agree with. I know that, Tommy, I think you're agreeing as well. Congratulations, Kevin Saul, as much as you're catching flack right now for the baseball hire. Congratulations on this extension. This is a big keep for Wichita State athletics.
It is, and so like as we talked about, Kevin Saul putting himself on the line by making these hires in men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball. I would say equally, if not even more important for Kevin Saul is to lock up the best softball coach that Wichita State has ever had. I mean, bringing that program to national prominence. And then, of course, all of the upgrades and renovations that are going to be happening to Wilkins Stadium. The softball program, I mean, you look at that program, I would say right now as the banner carrier for Wichita State athletics, right? Like it is the program that is the furthest along in the development, that we've seen the most amount of success over the last couple of years. And I would say that is just as, if not even more important than making additional hires, is locking up Christy Breadbinner.
Right. And the other side of that too is you lock her up, because how surprised would you have been, Tommy, to get news some SEC team signs Christy Breadbinner to as their coach, or some Big 12 team signs her, or somebody else big name, maybe a USC or somebody like that, somebody big signs her, because I'll tell you what, without this contract, I don't think she'd be here long. So congratulations to Kevin Saul and all the guys out there. This was done right. This was done timely. Kudos to you, because I don't think there will be a single soul in the city of Wichita that says this was not a good re-signing.
I also am a little bit, and I'll be completely honest, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist just in general in my life. I always like looking, behind the scenes on things.
Oh,
and,
you dog, you.
It makes me wonder the timing of this to deflect a little bit of attention away from the hiring of Brian Green.
Do you really think so?
Am I wrong? I don't know. I mean, like, it's really, really good news, and it's something that I think that everybody can rally behind, right? Like, this is I would say 100% of the fan base in the Shocker community will say this is an awesome development, and well-deserved, much needed, really important. And oh, by the way, I've completely forgotten about the baseball hire that happened yesterday. Yeah. I'm just saying. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, just real quick, what goes on at Area 51, Tommy?
Isn't that the UFO place?
Yeah, I mean, because after all, I mean, there's a lot of conspiracies going on down there.
Right, but I will say that
now, when I say so come on, Tommy. Yeah, it was a joke. I'm sorry, I had to explain the joke. I mean, it's
I know what Area 51 is.
Sign the new the softball coach to an extension. It's not a conspiracy, I don't believe.
I just think the timing is a little interesting, but regardless, very, very well deserved for Christy Breadbinner, who agreed to a contract extension that will run through the 2028 season. That news was announced by Shocker Softball this morning. We're going to go ahead and take our first break of the hour. By the way, before we take a break, congratulations to Earl and Tyler. They were the ones that won the pair of tickets to see George Michael Reborn, a tribute to George Michael and Wham at the Orpheum Theater on June 17th. We'll give away another pair of tickets on the program tomorrow, so hang on for that. And once again, congratulations to Earl and Tyler for winning those tickets. When we come back, I promise we will finally talk about Wichita State and KU basketball facing off in Kansas City in December. That announcement came down yesterday. Also some news on the NFL front, and Paul's favorite sports TV show of all time coming to an end. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break right here. It's Tommy Castor and Paul Savage on Sports Daily. Hang on.
The commercials are over.
Yo, I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Sports Daily on KFH. Tommy Castor and Paul Savage, Jad Chambers producing the program. Your call is always welcome on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. Hope everybody is enjoying Wichita River Festival week this week downtown. It's always a fun time, and tomorrow night is the Highland Dairy Ice Cream Social beginning at 6:30, goes until 8 o'clock on Douglas. You can come down and enjoy a complimentary bowl of Highland Dairy ice cream. Yours truly will be there scooping the ice cream. I'm not sure I'm a great scooper of ice cream on my end, but I'm going to do my best, Paul. I'm going to see if I can do a good job at that.
Well, here's what I want to know. If I come down and I'm in your line, will I get an extra scoop or will I not get an extra scoop?
I don't know the rules. Like, nobody's told me exactly what the parameters are. Like, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble if I give you an extra scoop.
Well, what are they going to do? Put you in ice cream jail? I want to.
But I don't know. Paul, I'm a rule follower. I'm not a rule breaker. They tell me how I need to do it, and I'm going to take care of it.
I just got to say this, Tommy. They've called you a celebrity scooper. They could revoke your celebrity status.
That is right. Yes, that could happen.
Yeah.
So if that's on the table, then Paul, I'm sorry. You're not going to get an extra scoop. In fact, you might have to go to the back of the line because I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything that will have any kind of appearance of impropriety. I want to handle things. I want to keep that celebrity status. So unfortunately, Paul, I'm not going to be able to take care of you.
Oh, geez. Golly. Okay. Wow.
That's gonna be tomorrow night. It'll be a lot of fun down on Douglas. The Highland Dairy Ice Cream Social beginning at 6:30, and of course that's only one of the big events happening with River Festival this week. And Odyssey is proud to be a part of a lot of those great events downtown for the annual River Festival in Wichita. All right, Paul. Big news that came down yesterday. We're finally getting to it on the program. By the way, if you missed any of our discussion about the new Shocker baseball coach Brian Green, if you missed our conversation about what else did we talk about? We talked about LIV Golf and the PGA Tour merging. If you missed any of the big topics, you can always go back and listen on the Odyssey app on the podcast page. You can pull up all of that and listen to our discussion earlier in the hour. But a topic that we wanted to talk about earlier on in the show, we're getting to right now. Shocker basketball, Jayhawk basketball. People have been for years for these two programs to play each other in a regular game. They have not faced off in a regular season game against each other since 1993. That looks to be no more. Multiple reports yesterday that WSU and KU basketball will face off against each other on December 29th at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Paul, your initial thoughts on that? I mean, it's been a long time. These two teams have not played each other since 1993. It's been 30 years. Before that, they did play every year from 84 to 93. KU went 8-1 during that stretch. The last time these two teams faced off in any capacity was going back to the NCAA tournament in 2015, where, of course, the Shockers beat KU 78-65. So your thoughts on this news?
You say this has been going on for years. No, my friend, it's been going on for decades. That's how long this has been going on for. And finally, they're going to play a game, a regular season game, that is. Let's make sure we understand that. This is a regular season game, and they're going to play. Now, Tommy, this just irks the heck out of me why KU won't play Wichita State. And quite frankly, Wichita State ought to be playing K-State once a year, KU once a year, and it should happen because this is the state of Kansas. We're all Kansans. This is good for the state of Kansas. They're almost free games because there's no airplane expense to go. Most of these games, you won't get the kids out of school because you can almost go and come on the same night. It's a 2-hour bus drive to whatever school you're going to. I'm just telling you, Tommy, there's no reason in the world for this not to happen. Now, some reason it's happened for 30 years, 3 decades. This has not happened. I don't think it's Wichita State. I think it's KU. I don't think KU wants to take the chance of getting beat by Wichita State. That's what I think this really boils down to. And perhaps in the Greg Marshall years, they would look at a program like Wichita State and say, you know something? We really have nothing to gain by playing Wichita State or even beating Wichita State. But boy, what if they sneak up on us one year and they win? We have a lot to lose and not much to gain. We're not going to alter how much money we make. We'll bring in some other schlack team, and we'll pay them their fee, and they'll come and play. We'll get our win, and they'll go back and wherever they came from. And it really irks me. It really irks me that the University of Kansas never wanted to play Wichita State. Now, I would think, Tommy, and I know that you're a KU guy. You're a KU elitist, and I understand that.
Okay.
And here's the thing.
I mean, I would disagree with that, but okay, go on.
But here's what I would think a guy like you would want. I would think you would want the opportunity to come to Wichita once a year, or have Wichita come up to their gym and play a game and win, so that you could lord it over all those lowly Wichita State people. Aha, see? You think you can compete with us? Year after year, we beat the pants off of you. You found your place. I would think that for a guy like you, Tommy, that would be very attractive. I would think that a lot of KU people would say, man, oh man, I want the opportunity to whip Wichita State. And I don't understand why you guys don't take the opportunity to do that. K-State, I think, would be a lot of fun too. So, Tommy, here's my solution. And it's a heck of a solution. This isn't the first time I've brought this up in my life, but I'm going to bring it up with you because that's the first time with you. If there's a House of Representative listening to my voice on this show, and you're in the Kansas State House of Representatives, or if you're a Kansas senator, you're in the Senate up in Topeka, and you can hear this conversation, put forth a law that says Wichita State, KU, and K-State need to play baseball and that's what elitists say. That's what elitists do. That's what you guys do. That's what you always do. See, now hold on just a second, and let me tell you why. Because it would be good for the state of Kansas. It would bring a ton of money that stays in Kansas. Instead of sending it to some other college in some other state, that money stays right here. And by the way, Kansas taxpayers pay a ton of money to KU, K-State, and Wichita State. We are entitled to have these teams play basketball.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'd rather have my politicians actually focus on things that are more important than legislating whether or not teams are playing each other.
Takes 5 minutes to do it. I can write a bill. We can have it passed in 5 minutes.
I don't care. Let me tell you a secret, Paul.
You don't care because you're from KU.
I don't care. I don't care all that much. Like, if they play each other, that's great. Like, when I saw the report that Wichita State and KU were going to be playing each other in basketball, I thought, cool. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, it's
if
cool.
They don't play, that's fine. If they don't play, cool, that's fine. I just don't care. I don't care one way or another. Leave it up to the coaches to schedule who they see fit. And if the coaches decide they want to schedule, like in this case, great. That's awesome. That's, good for Paul Mills and good for Bill Self for determining that it was going to be a good idea for these two teams to face off against each other for whatever reason, whether that's financially motivated or, if Paul Mills thinks that, it can be that would be a monumental win for his young Shocker program to upset KU. That'd be awesome. Like, whatever the motivation is, that's great. But if they decide they don't want to do it, okay. Cool, we move on. I just don't care. I don't care enough to have these politicians take time out of their day when there are real issues in the state to legislate these two teams playing each other. I just don't care.
Well, maybe we can get them focused on basketball. They won't make a mess of the rest of the stuff they've got to. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Or it takes away their attention from more pressing matters, more important matters. I just don't feel like that's what I need my politicians spending their time on.
10 minutes to pass a bill. You don't have 10 minutes to pass a bill. Come on. Jad, what do you got to say?
I'm sorry, Paul. I don't care what or how easy a bill is. I don't care if it's nominating a new state rodent or whatever it is. Nothing in Topeka takes 10 minutes.
Oh, well.
Gridlock.
Yeah.
Gridlock. And you know what? And think about, and I don't have enough faith in our politicians to think that they wouldn't try to tack on a bunch of other crap that is unnecessary on this bill. They might say, oh, we're doing this for the good of, Wichita State and KU and K-State, and we're legislating this. And then all of a sudden you find out that they've tacked on a bunch of other unnecessary stuff that has nothing to do with the world of sports whatsoever, because that's the way that politics work. So I just don't care enough. I don't want it in the place of, other pressing issues around the state of Kansas. So if they play each other and it looks like they're going to in the regular season, great. I will definitely watch. And you know what I want to call you out here, Paul, because you call me a KU elitist. I'm not a KU elitist. I didn't go to KU. I'm not a KU alum. I've lived in Wichita my entire life. I cheer for both universities. I support both universities equally. I'm not a KU elitist. I'm happy they're playing each other. But if they didn't play each other, my life would go on. I wouldn't lose any sleep. We'd move on. It's all good.
Well, I think that's tremendous, and I apologize for the KU elitist fan. You're a KU flack, so no, that was a joke. I'm just kidding. I didn't mean that either, obviously. But something, I'm gonna go my whole life and not get to enjoy a series, like Missouri KU. I'm gonna go my entire life and not to get to enjoy that KU, Wichita State, K-State triangle of basketball. Some of the greatest basketball in the country comes out of the state of Kansas. And I feel like we're all being robbed from a chance to enjoy what is so great about the state of Kansas sports, and that is college basketball. It's as
I don't know why you're whining about it though, because it's happening.
Whining?
Like the decision was they're playing each other. Like it's going to happen. So they're going to play each other on. Like you're talking about a missed opportunity. It's going to happen, right?
Yeah, once out of every 30 years. Gee, thanks.
Well, we don't know if
it's but next time they play in that
back.
case.
It may come back. Who knows? I mean, but at least we know like it's a start.
What makes
they're
you
playing
think
once.
What makes you think it's going to come back?
Well, my understanding, and I don't have any official word on this, but speculation is that this is a game that is actually being driven by the NIL collectives. And so you that in there and you've got, and I don't exactly know the logistics and if that's even going to happen or not, but you've got NIL opportunities potentially for the players on both teams. And maybe that ends up being a driving force behind it to make this more of a regular thing. That I'm okay with. I'm okay with that being the driving force as opposed to political pressure in Topeka to make this happen on a regular basis. I'm more okay with that. Let's go to the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. Terry is on the line wanting to talk about Wichita State and KU basketball. Terry, good morning. What's on your mind?
Hey guys, how you doing there? Hey,
doing great.
Just a real quick kind of little history for me as a perspective. I grew up here in Wichita, live here now, but I ran cross country and track at the University of New Mexico. And yes, Paul, I still drank coffee during ultra marathons.
Wow.
But anyway, I'm dumb enough to have gotten two different graduate degrees, and one is from Wichita State and one is from KU, and my sister was a K-Stater, both her degrees from there. I think as far as a fan base, I didn't realize until those 2 years I lived in Lawrence to work on that degree that it's not a big deal for people up there at all. It's like K-State loves beating KU, but I didn't realize until I moved up there that bigger hatred and rivalry for KU was Missouri. It's like, we like beating K-State, but man, we want to pummel Missouri. And really, when I lived up there years ago, it was like nobody even thought about Wichita State as somebody necessarily we wanted to play. Now, I know there's a lot of politics involved in what you guys have been discussing, but I see it as for the KU fan base, it's really not that big a deal unless you're maybe from Wichita and grew up here and have KU ties or, for me, I think it would be great to see them all three play each other. You know what I mean? But it's different than when I was in New Mexico. New Mexico and New Mexico State have never been in the same athletic conference, but they play each other every year at basketball, football, baseball. It's almost an annual thing, and it is a rivalry, what is considered a rivalry game. So I think from a fan base, it just, for people up there in the Lawrence area, it's just not that big a deal. What do you think about that?
Well,
Terry, I think you're right. I mean, I think that, that's always been kind of the mentality of, and I know, Paul jokingly KU elitist, but I think that there is a little bit, and I can say this as a KU fan, I think there is a little bit of that where, they would rather go and beat Missouri, play Missouri in the border showdown. They don't particularly care about K-State. They don't particularly care about Wichita State. I would say that Kansas State cares more about Kansas than Kansas cares about them. And then I would say that, especially once the Greg Marshall era started at Wichita State with basketball, Shocker basketball cared more about KU than vice versa. So I do think that there is now a setting where you've got an opportunity with Paul Mills as the new coach for Shocker basketball to maybe this will end up being a series. Maybe this will be a long-term thing. I will say that I'm looking forward to the matchup. I think it's going to be fun to watch these two schools meet up. But I'll go back to what I said before. I just don't lose any sleep over it if it doesn't happen.
Well, I think you got a good – oh, Terry, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I was just going to say that maybe it doesn't mean a lot to KU people, but it means a lot to people from, let's say, Emporia West. There's a lot of people that live from Emporia West in this state. And Wichita is the largest city in the entire state of Kansas. There's importance to the state that KU people have to understand. This is about the state of Kansas. This isn't just about the University of Kansas. This is about the state of Kansas. This is about how we showcase our state. This would be like, they say Indiana is one of the best states in the country when it comes to basketball, both college and high school, and I think there's a great point for that. High school basketball in the state of Indiana is really something very special, but it can be the same thing here in the state of Kansas. I think it's great for Kansas. I just think it's closed-minded to not understand what this rivalry, K-State, KU, and Wichita State in basketball, one game a year. You can switch back and forth, home one year, away the next year, back and forth with all three teams, and you would turn this thing into something really spectacular and special for the state of Kansas. The Kansas rivalry. I'll give it a nickname already. And I think KU and K-State will probably win more games over time than Wichita State win. And I would think that would make everybody at KU and K-State very happy to be able to do that. But I'll tell you what, this is a quality of life issue if you live in the state of Kansas. What is being withheld from us right now is a joy thing. It's a quality of life issue in the state of Kansas.
Oh, come on. Nothing is being withheld from us. But I can promise you right now, while there are people that, might want to see Wichita State and KU play each other and are thrilled that they're going to be playing each other, there is not a single person in the state of Kansas who feels like their quality is being affected. These two teams are not.
Looking for an adventure? Find yours in a Toyota truck. Like a Tacoma, the ultimate off-road machine. With available crawl control, you'll tackle anything in your way. Or an electrified Tundra with more power than ever before and a spacious high-tech cabin that puts you in charge. Or go with the legendary 4Runner, always reliable and durable over the toughest terrain. No matter your adventure, Toyota has you covered. Visit buyatoyota.com for more and let's go places.
Playing each other. Come on. I get the desire to have these two teams play, but nobody is losing sleep about this. And it's great that it's happening. I would love to see it happen more often, but no, the quality of life thing. Come on, Paul. Yeah. Terry, thanks for the call. Appreciate you calling in and your thoughts on this matchup that's going to be happening on December 29th. I guess my final thought on it, Paul, before we take a break is good for them. I'm glad they got it done. Would love to see it happen more often. I am happy. I'm glad that they're going to be playing each other. Right. Not the end of the world for me one way or another. Right. I know you care about it more than I do.
And I know you're not a hack, and I know you're not an elitist. So there you go.
I think that we're making up a little bit. That might have been was that our first fight ever?
I think
our
it
first
was.
argument
Are
ever.
you okay? Are you okay? I didn't did I?
I'm going to need the commercial break to try to compose myself. I'm a little bit upset right now. But no, I'm good. Definitely a good discussion. And of course, we'll be looking forward to that matchup on December 29th at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Shockers and Jayhawks facing off on the hardwood. When we come back, our final full segment of the show, Paul's favorite sports TV show of all time, coming to an end. We'll talk about that on the other side at Sports Daily on KFH.
.97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, we're back here, our final full segment on a Tuesday at Sports Daily. Tommy Castor and Paul Savage, thanks for joining us all morning long as we've discussed the new baseball coach at Wichita State, Brian Green, who will be on our show on Thursday morning at 10:25 to discuss him coming to Wichita State. Talked about that, talked about the merger with the PGA Tour and LIV Golf a little bit earlier on in the program. Anything that you might have missed, you can always go back on the free Odyssey app, download that, or go to kfhradio.com and listen to anything that you might have missed. And we've been teasing it all show, Paul. Your favorite show of all, bit of trouble, misspoke that Hard Knocks was going away. That's a little bit extreme, but
yes,
it is in some trouble. So explain what's going on with your all-time favorite TV show.
Well, there are certain teams that have to be on, that must be on Hard Knocks. It's a contract between HBO and the NFL. And if you're not familiar with Hard Knocks, HBO goes in and does a fantastic job. Puts literally hundreds of cameras all over the football facilities, offices, meeting rooms, practice fields. There's more cameras out there than you can shake a stick at, and mics everywhere. It's hard to have any privacy within the football complex. But anyway, it is an intrusion. But my experience with cameras and HBO, my one experience was back when HBO came in to film a week at East High School when the Brown brothers were there. And one was a junior, one was a senior. Both those guys were, preeminent recruits in the United States for Division I football. And what I noticed was, you notice it the first day. You act differently the first day. By the second day, you're not noticing it quite as much. By the third day, you act like the cameras aren't there. That's my personal experience. And I think Hard Knocks is when they say they intrude into these football camps, that it's a big distraction. I'm not sure I'm buying that. But right now the NFL needs to find a team for HBO Hard Knocks. Usually the team has been announced by now, and they're promoting it by now, but they're not right now. And part of the problem is nobody wants to do it. A lot of teams think it's a distraction. And maybe it is. Well, in fact, yeah, I think it is a distraction. But I would think for certain franchises it would be a really great way to market their team, gin up interest in the team where maybe they didn't have it before. And I think there's a lot of opportunities with being on Hard Knocks. I know I've loved it. I've seen every one since it started. I thought it was the best produced, best shot, best sound edited real-time football program that I've ever seen. And it really tells you what it's really like to be inside a training camp, for instance. So right now we're looking at 4 teams that may be drafted. The NFL can command only 4 teams to be on Hard Knocks. That's the New York Jets, Chicago Bears, New Orleans Saints, and the Washington Commanders. Those are the 4 teams that do not meet any of the criteria as to why you can't be on the show. I don't think any of them want to be on the show. They're going to force the NFL to draft one of them. But everybody else doesn't want to be on it. And that's distressing to me, Tommy. I look at it as a chance to create new fans on your team.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think I speak so glowingly of the Detroit Lions? You ever noticed how much I'm on board with the Detroit Lions? Do you know why that is?
You're a Dan Campbell fanboy. Yeah.
And you know why that is? A full season of Hard Knocks with the Detroit Lions. That's why.
Well, I think that out of those 4 teams that you listed, the one that stands out to me, it's got to be the New York Jets, right? Aaron Rodgers with a new team, and then, of course, all the young stars, Breece Hall, and all the other folks that are there that Robert Saleh has built, and he's a fun character too. That, to me, I would be more intrigued by that than watching the Chicago Bears or the New Orleans Saints, especially the Washington Commanders.
Oh, my gosh. That would be
I think it's, don't you think that's got to be a no-brainer? It's got to be the Jets doing Hard Knocks, right?
Not so fast, my friend. And here's what my thinking is that the New Orleans Saints, if Coach Gruden comes, if Carr comes to quarterback the Saints, let's say, because
he's there.
Yeah, he's there now, isn't he? Is he there now? Yeah, he's there now.
Yeah, they signed him. He's there.
And Coach Gruden comes to be his position coach or an advisor, an offensive coordinator type / advisor. If he shows up like I guess it's a possibility. Man, that could be some fantastic Hard Knocks, my friend. So the New Orleans Saints would be my pick. In fact, it might be my pick anyway, because I don't think you're going to get a lot from Aaron Rodgers at this point. But I think you could probably get a lot with Carr, that group, and I kind of like the New Orleans Saints. Maybe I'm wrong. I think I kind of like the Saints.
Well, I don't know when do they typically release what team it's going to be. I mean, it's got to be fairly soon, right? Because we're in off-season workouts right now. I know mandatory mini camps have already started, so I would imagine we'll have an announcement fairly soon. I wonder if this spells maybe not the end of Hard Knocks, but the beginning of the end, when there are teams that don't want to do it anymore and they just run out of teams to be able to profile.
Well, that's a good thought. I mean, you may be, sadly correct. And by the way, they would have named the team by now so they could start promo. I mean, everything's promo nowadays, and to get people ready to go, because you're looking at an August date when most of this stuff is going to start. They got to start filming in August, and so. I don't know. It's sad that teams don't want to do it. It's so well, but I mean, I get the distraction, man. I get it. Well, I understand it.
I hope you don't lose any sleep over it. We'll find out who that team is going to be, and we'll be back to wrap up the show and tell you what's on tap coming up here in just a couple minutes on Sports Daily.